then she's going to reveal it to you, and then she'll talk to you about it and stuff like that. Sounds good. Once we do all that, we'll move everything, and then we'll do the podcast.
Right. Keon got it all set up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
He can get the shot, don't nobody care. I gotta shoot my phone, open my mask. Can't do that. I only got for one.
Oh, okay.
We couldn't film downstairs because, well, rules are rules. But I'm excited. This is like the first thing I've ever done from my career like this. I'm usually real nervous about getting videos and pictures. You know, you try to leave that jump kind of where it is. And so this is the first time I'm really doing anything like this. And it's cool, you know, I bought some pieces from Marian before. She's done a Kobe piece, she's done a Sean Taylor piece. Those are different. Those are like my icons, my models, you know what I mean? People I really admire. This is a picture of me, so we'll see how it turns out.
This way. This way.
Oh, boy, no way. Dang, what type of, you see? Hey, you see the type of people I'm dealing with, man? They don't even tell me where I'm headed. You can be in the video. You can be in the video. Yes, ma'am. I tell you what, though, the suspense is building because this is really far down the hallway. I wasn't as nervous when I got off the elevator as I am now. I think they've already seen the piece.
I haven't.
Because clearly there's people behind the camera and Keon's walking here. So I'm pretty sure they know what's going on. I know. Oh, it's right here. Hold on. I'm nervous. But he don't want to be on camera. So he just gonna probably just edit himself out. All right, y'all. Here we go. I should have gave him 3. The boys know what that means. Why is it taking so long? The suspense. Is this what they do? Is this what the creative types do? The artisty types? They just leave you waiting, hoping that at some point they open the door. Whoa!
So I had to come.
We were setting all this up.
Should I come hug you now?
I did knock 18 times.
I think Al is missing.
I did knock 18 times out here. What's up? Pleasure to finally meet you. Good, how you doing? I knocked like 18 times, bro. Hey,
welcome to my studio.
So as soon as you walk in, we got stuff. So
right when you walk in, we're gonna hit you with the art. Right when you walk in.
Okay, so what are these?
This is a set called Colors of the Wind. It's 2 ladies that are kind of facing off, and they've got these gradient colors. And my niece inspired this, in fact, by having me color Pocahontas for her.
Well, look.
And it made me think of that song, Colors of the Wind. So.
See, a good idea can come from anywhere.
Right, and then these are some pieces from my upcoming collection. It's called Mektub, It Is Written. Mektub means it is written in Arabic.
Okay.
And so I'm doing a solo exhibition, my second solo exhibition, November 13th.
Cool. Saturday,
November 13th. It's during Dallas Art Fair weekend. So see, these are some of the pieces that will be featured in the collection.
Okay, is the collection done?
Almost. I have about 3 or 4
Are you nervous?
canvas pieces. I'm anxious, yes.
Well,
but it's natural. It's a good thing. Yeah.
Anxious is good because
Exactly.
anxious brings you to creativity. Anxious brings you to finding ways to get things done. I was anxious before every game. And,
Right.
Well, most of the time they work.
It's how you channel it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is a part of the same collection as well?
Yeah, all of these like Egyptian inspired pieces and this one over here as well, they're all part of the collection. Yeah, this one has, so I incorporated in some of the pieces my signature style of adding this like crushed glass element, mixed media.
Right, which is my favorite part because I have 2 of your artworks already and it had that crushed glass on it, which was kind of what brought me to you.
Right, the Kobe and Sean Taylor.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is a very special piece for me, so yeah, I'm very excited about it.
Cool.
Yeah, welcome.
So can I open this now, y'all, or what, man? Like, sheesh, Keys doing all this creative stuff.
Cool?
Okay, so.
I'm praying you like it. I know you.
Okay, so, we're ready? Are we rolling?
3, 2, 1, rolling on my camera.
Alright, so we had the conversation. I don't have, like, I'm just not comfortable with, like, putting myself out there like that, like getting certain pieces, which is why I got Sean and Kobe, because those are two people that, not necessarily Sean was my friend, so not idolized, but that meant a lot to me, right? And were the greatest at what they did. And so now I was like, all right, it's my birthday. My birthday's coming up. And I was like, shoot, you know, I can get me something. And so I gave you like a very slight idea, right? Because you got to trust the people who know how to do stuff you don't know how to do. And so this is it. This is going to be the DB Precision piece. And okay, so do I pull this up? Do I pull it down?
We're going to go down.
Okay.
Okay, ready?
Oh, wait. I'm nervous. Wait, I'm nervous.
He's nervous, and I'm the one that's nervous.
I put on extra deodorant though, y'all, so I ain't musty though. That's what's up. All right, ready? One. Nope, not yet. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Oh, that is hard. God. Look at all the pictures.
Yes, so I incorporated a ton of pictures throughout your career and a couple of your son as well. I don't know if you can see your son here.
Oh, that's hard.
I know that you are not big on having a ton of attention on you. So I wanted to make the background feel a little bit more subdued, so it wasn't just so busy and so much of everything going on, but when you get in close and you kind of get into the details of it, you can see certain memories throughout your career.
It's absolutely perfect.
Taking that amazing image of you. So this one has got a lot of different materials. There's, of course, captures from all throughout your career. There's, you know, some oil pastels and some outlining here. There's puff print, like puff paint to highlight certain aspects, and then there's that crushed glass, and there's that epoxy resin, and incorporated these little holographic pieces in to kind of just create that highlight. And then painted that DB Precision logo on the top. So
this is absolutely more than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, great! I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, this is perfect.
I'm so glad you love it.
Absolutely perfect.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Now, can you make sure you ship it fast though?
Oh man, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get the courier service. Is gonna drop it right at your door. Scheduled delivery for sure.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad you like it.
All right, now let's get to the podcast.
Well, most times these stories write themselves. You know, things start off and you think they're gonna be one thing, but a lot of times they end up being another. When the last opportunity you get for somebody to do a story on you to say the spotlight is growing dim on Clark, you think it's kind of over.
Not at all.
Turn it up down here, man.
Underestimated and still I made it. In the book of hard knocks, I'm highly educated. Nobody told me looked over, but still dedicated. Played in the league for 13, I ain't gotta be favorite. 2 Super Bowls, Honolulu, I stood with the greatest. The thing is this, if never rich, I'm good with my neighbors. DB Precision, television, ain't asked for no favors. Numbers don't lie, neither do pictures, just look in the papers. No backing down or turning back, part 2 of the movie. Never the biggest, but it takes more than 2 just to move me. Ain't gotta like what I'm saying, just watch me go to work. And tackle all of these topics right here on Face First.
I mean, it seems like getting this set up has been difficult. And so now we're ready to go. And so we have Jaden, my child.
I am.
We have Marian, who's the artist that has allowed us to use her space. She created a beautiful DB Precision piece for me. And this is an historic Face First event. You two are my Face First female guests.
Hey,
so would it be
honored.
Would it be like females first?
Females first on Face First.
Females first. That's what we'll name it. Females first on Face First, but we won't have it that long because that's a lot of writing. And Keon's gonna type it. I'm not gonna type it.
First.
Females first. That works. So it's my birthday, right? And so it's cool that I have a birthday gift that I've given to myself now.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I get to see my child who is now moved away. Yeah, so that's what happens, man. You raise these kids, Marian, and you give them your entire lives, and you bathe them when they're babies, and you cook their food for them.
Man.
And when they drop their little nooks or noonies on the ground, you put your life in danger
by putting your mouth on it to clean it and then give it back to them.
I don't think.
And then they get old and they get boyfriends or girlfriends that they spend more time with than you, and then they move away.
What a shame.
It's a
I
shame.
think there's more things that happen.
What's going on?
in the timeline than that.
Yeah. And so, but now to have you guys here is important for me because there are things that I want to have conversations about as it pertains to women, as it pertains to being successful, right? In your adult lives, in your business lives, in your careers, also whether it's romantically, personally, like all of these things are important. But if I talk about it, they're going to be like, well, how in the hell are you mansplaining everything that goes on with these women? But
True.
the cool part, both of you ladies were high school athletes.
We were.
Now, I was here for your high school career. Almost got in a fight with an official one time.
Oh, wow.
And
Multiple
you
times.
played basketball, correct?
Correct.
Were you good in basketball?
I was all state, all district, all state, MVP of my team. I made varsity my freshman year, but I didn't play much. I only played 6 games my freshman year. But my sophomore year was when I broke out. So yeah.
You must have went to like a small
I went
private
to
school.
a 4A school, not 5A. It was 4A.
So it was 4A, and you were hooping.
Yeah.
So you was
I was
hooping.
hooping. I had scholarships, scholarship offers to a couple different
I
schools.
bet you used to foul a lot.
Foul?
Yes.
Oh man! My sophomore year, I fouled out several games, and my coach had to kind of reel me in and explain to me like, look, you can't be that aggressive. You're gonna have to tone it down. So then I learned my lesson my sophomore year. But
I don't think that's a problem. My brother used to affectionately call me Ray Lewis.
oh
because
yeah,
of the way I played soccer. And then one time I got a red card, and my coach made my team run for me because I was the captain.
Oh, wow.
So he knew that it would make me more angry for them to run than for me to run.
I used to rile myself up before games, and my coach used to call me Bruce Bowen. I don't know. He would liken because I was big on defense. He would liken my game to Bruce Bowen because I would talk smack.
That means, but that probably means like you couldn't play offense though, because Bruce Bowen couldn't play offense
I
though.
still hold the record at my high school for most points scored in a game in women's varsity.
How much did you score?
36 points.
Oh, okay.
That's crazy.
For high school,
Listen. I played high school basketball. I never scored 36
I had
points.
a double that game. Yeah.
Yeah, see, like I never scored 36 points. I did what football players do in basketball. I guarded the best guard, and I made life hell for them because they were usually skinny. I was stronger. I was more athletic. I know for her, for sure, she's playing a soccer game, and she played soccer like I played football, which I loved about her, right? And I felt like I was always confident that she was going to be able to take care of herself. But she didn't have like a lot of wiggle, So if she was kicking the ball or playing defense, she's knocking people down. And there was this, are they officials or
Yes,
referees? The referee in the soccer game kept screaming at her. I was like, dang, like I feel like he's treating her different. And now,
If she'd been a boy, it wouldn't have been a problem.
well, that and too though, and I'll be honest, at that time, like it wasn't a race thing because
No.
you don't look the blackest.
Whoa.
What?
What are you talking about? All this melanin?
Right. So halftime comes. I get up. I walk to the stairs. I walk down the stadium stairs. I walk around the field. I walk to the middle of the field. And I had a very polite, quiet conversation.
I just don't see that.
Okay, it was more, he did not make a lot of noise coming out of the stands. He did not make a lot of noise while he stomped across the grass. But when he reached the field, you very clearly heard, you see that one? Not that one. And then I don't remember much that was going on. I think I was mad about something. I was always angry during a soccer game. I was always angry. So I think
I was typically always
I was like mad, so I wasn't paying attention. But I know that in the back of my head, I was like, "Oh, he better not play with my daddy," because so I was like, if he doesn't want, I'll kick him with a soccer ball.
Nah, and so like I see that aggression, runs. But not only did you guys both athletes, you're both two of the most creative people I know. Now, like the rest of my creative people are actually in this room in different places as well. So it's not like I know a ton of creatives, but so you guys play high school ball. Both of you went to college. When you go to college, Marian, what's your thought process? Like at that point, did you know that you wanted to be an artist at some point, or was it some sort of protocol, some sort of line you felt like you had to walk as a woman of like, okay, I'm not going to be an athlete. I'm not trying to play in the WNBA. Like I need to get a degree, get a job, and be ready to get into the real world.
Right. So I grew up in a foreign home. So, you know, pitching the idea of being an artist was to them, it's not a viable career at that time. Hearing them say, when you say foreign home, I'm Egyptian.
Okay.
So I'm 100% Egyptian. Both of my parents are full Egyptian, East Africa. So when I told them I wanted to study art, they were like, absolutely not. You have a scholarship. You're not going to waste that scholarship. So find something else to do. So I took my love of sports and said, well, if I can't do art, then maybe I'll think about either being a trainer, like an athletic trainer, the ones that run onto the field if an injury happens, or maybe I'll think about going into physical therapy. I can translate the fact that I'm good at science. I was really into anatomy and physiology. Let me translate that into a career in, you know, physical therapy or something like that and work with athletes because that's natural to me. So I studied exercise science, and I worked in several different physical therapy offices and things like that. But it didn't quite fulfill me, or it didn't quite pan out in my mind as I thought it would.
Right.
Know?
So then you was like doing art or no?
No, it was such a journey. So then I, you know, realizing that wasn't quite what I wanted to do, I began working in different retail establishments, such as, you know, being a manager for Target and, you know, being an assistant manager at this clothing boutique and doing all these things. And then I found myself without a job. I got laid off. And I worked at an interior design office for 2 years. And in fact, I helped design Jerry Jones's suite at AT&T Stadium. I did the Jonas Brothers house out here in Westlake. But the woman that I was working for closed down her business and moved because she got married and she had a bunch of life changes. So now I found myself like, okay, what am I going to do? And I ended up getting this job at this staffing company that was opening a medical division to staff for all these different medical professionals, you know, nurse practitioners, nurses,
right. So so like, were you just basically doing jobs to make money, doing jobs to have jobs?
Trying to figure out what is it that I want to do? Because I can't quite pinpoint.
Was this all in college or was
No, this is so working in physical therapy offices was in college and shortly after. Then in my early 20s, around your age, was the retail vibe. And then moving into my mid and late 20s was working for startup companies in medical staffing. Okay. So from about 25 to, well, really about 23 to 30, 7 years.
You're over 30?
Oh yeah, girl, I'm 33.
Girl, you look great.
Hey y'all.
That's what. This is what happens when you do females first.
I am in my.
Y'all break out into like complimentary mode of, oh girl, you so beautiful. You know what I'm saying? What skincare products you use? Like again, things that I don't get to talk about. But in fact, I do have Fenty anti-shine now.
Look at you.
I went to Sephora. Right, I went to Sephora. The lady walks over to me. I said, "Hi, ma'am. I am here for some anti-shine." And so, but I had to let her know, ma'am, I don't just walk in Sephora and need makeup. Here is what I do for a living.
And
so
this is why.
I spent 5 minutes. I spent 5 minutes explaining to her, this is my job. This is what's happening. These are the lights. This is what I need. So I got a matte lotion.
Ooh.
What? And Fenty. And so I be on the side, because, you know, it's COVID. Well, I'm no makeup artist, and I make sure that I'm right. You know what I mean? But she talks about like what it was 23 to 30.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you were going through your process, I was a huge part of it because I'm a genius. Maybe not, right?
Yes.
And so, but you know, so you win the triple.
I did.
In the state as a senior.
I did.
Because I remember that little stupid run you had after you hit the sand pit.
Yeah, I had.
When you was like,
oh my goodness. But I was so confused what was going on. First off, background. My school had lost their jumper, and my coach really went on a limb and was like, you think you could do this? And I was like, I don't know, maybe. And so I did long jump only.
Oh, wow.
And then halfway through my senior season, never had triple jump. You can ask my dad. I'm more than uncoordinated. I would literally trip.
I would call her awkward.
I broke my ankle doing the long jump. Mm-hmm.
Oh. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know how I did it. I don't have much rhythm either. But they were like, can you just go out and try it? So halfway through my senior season, like 2 weeks, maybe 3 before district, I started triple jumping.
Oh, wow.
And then I won state.
Yeah, she did.
That's exactly how it happened. Like, then I won state.
You didn't even realize that you had that in you.
Because I had gone to state for long jump the year before, but it was also like my first year doing it. I placed third. I didn't like win, but I was still like, dang, I've only been doing this for like 6 weeks. And then like the next year.
You were so hurt though when you didn't make it to state for long jump.
But then that was what happened. Something was tugging in my hamstring and I couldn't stretch my legs out enough after triple jump because triple jump was so strenuous that I missed by like an inch to get into state, and I was distraught because that's my my event. And I just remember there was this girl who was like, "It's okay, baby, it's fine. You're gonna make it in state, and you're gonna win." And I was like, "How am I gonna win? I just started doing this, and then I won."
Wow.
And so I remember we were talking about schools, right? And you had a coach. Your high school coach ends up being the soccer coach at Southern.
He did.
And they were having discussions about, okay, you playing soccer, you doing some stuff in track. And you and I sat around and talked. And I was like, look, Jay, we're not trying to go to Olympics. And yes, I said we, because it was we.
It was we. It was
because
us.
I remember.
And I wasn't.
Yeah, because I remember when you were like 1 and I came home from school that time and your mommy refused to help me with you. And it was like 2 a.m. and you was crying and you was cutting up. And I remember looking at you in your face and saying, child, if you just tell me what's wrong, I can fix it. Mm-hmm. And you know what? You never said anything.
I was 1.
And so now throughout life, I felt like I had to say, child, if you just tell me what's wrong, I can fix it. And so
said than done.
And so we make because it was it wasn't just you. We make the decision that you're going to go to LSU.
We did.
At the time, obviously, I'm a very overwhelming presence in life. At the time, I felt like it was the best thing. Did you feel like it was the best thing at that time, or did you have other ideas of different things you wanted to do?
After I had decided when I was like 14, you know what? No, like this is what I want to be in media. I want to be in journalism. I want to be in broadcasting. LSU was always in the top 5. And at that time, we didn't live in Louisiana, so it was really in the top 5 because I was like, that's my home anyway. Like I grew up there for 6 years, and that's where I was born. I was born at LSU, basically. And so it was always one of those things that once because you're a rational person. And I mean,
very,
for the most part, I was logical enough. So when you sat down with me and you were like, look, Jay, like, you don't want to go farther than after college. And I told you, like, I want to look past the next 4 years. And we sat down and we were like looking at my, tuition, looking at college funds. You were like, this makes the most sense. And it did. So it was the right decision. And I think in hindsight, like looking back, it also, because it made me who I am. I don't regret it. I think that it was something that I definitely should have done and I wouldn't change it.
Right. And so now you're done with high school. You've moved to San Francisco.
College.
College. Yeah, see? Yep, that's where we at. Good coffee. We get to, you're out of college now. You're in San Francisco and you're kind of in that place that Marian was talking about where it was working at physician's office, right? Trying to figure out retail jobs, right? Interior design. And so she moved around and did all these things for this long span of 7 years. And
more than that, really.
Well, for more than that, right? And so and it takes time to find yourself. So with your new job now and where you are, what are the next steps? So either you make sure you don't have to bounce around and do those things, or do you look at it like, you know what? I ain't got no kids. I ain't married. Bouncing around may be what I have to do in order to find my sweet spot of where I want to be.
Well, the cool thing about my current job, I work at Alfie, which is an app that's in beta testing based on women empowerment, connectivity in professional life, and overall just uplifting women. All of our stories are about women. And if it's not about women, it's about a man helping women, because we do want to
females first.
Because we do want to focus on allyship. Like we want to focus on don't hate men. Tell men to join us. Tell them to help us empower people, which is something that I never thought I'd get into this early. Like I just graduated college and I'm already doing something that's that important to me.
I never thought you'd ever get into anything that was like, come on, men, join us. And I'm your daddy.
For the most part, my radicalism stays in race. I think gender is interesting, but that's where we get into intersectionality. And that's not what this is about right now.
Thank God.
But the job allows me to have many different mediums. I can write, I can do a podcast, I can do video, I can do a blog, I can do graphics. It allows me to dip my toe in any section of media without losing reporting. And I know, and I've always known since I was old enough to not want to, like be a ballerina, which was never, you know how that was for me.
If we were counting on you to be a ballerina for us to make money, you was gonna never get off my paper.
Hearing that though is so amazing because a lot of people, see, the thing is, I knew kind of what I wanted to do, but I suppressed it. Because of your family? Based on familial and cultural, influences. But see, you knew going into going into school, what your end goal was. You studied exactly what you wanted to do.
Well, not really. When I first went to school, I was already a sophomore going into my junior year in credits. So I had to pick what college I wanted to go to fast in terms of which section. But it was one of those things where I got there and I was basically in my college already. And then something very, very traumatic happened. Awful. And I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to handle it. It was just one of those things where never in my life did I think I was going to have to deal with that.
You know what's so funny? Is that my degree started as going into the athletic training route. And something happened my freshman year that was extremely traumatic, that I completely changed my degree from being athletic training to being exercise science in order to go into physical therapy. Something that I could pivot my degree to quickly without having to compromise all the classes I took. And you know what, to be honest,
sometimes that puts you in a bad position though, because you're in a spot.
I think that had that traumatic event not happened, I might have become an athletic trainer and not have been an artist. And I was meant to be an artist.
What happened is terrible, and I don't think anything like that should happen. But when it happened, and I went to my counselors, and I was like, I went to the dean, I went to my professors, they're not helping me. And I do understand that in the real world you have to deal with things, but I also know that if I looked at a boss and I explained the situation that had happened, they would have been a little more lenient because of how terrible it was. I'm talking about Wade.
I know what you're talking about.
And
I'm your dad.
You are my dad. You're my dad. Keep forgetting.
Duh.
My bad. But
and just for people who are listening and may not be watching, Wade Sims was a player at LSU. Very, very popular kid, really good kid. He was outside of a club, got into a fight. He was shot and killed.
No.
And so it was something that affected the LSU community greatly, but he was from Baton Rouge. He was a hometown kid. And so they were very close. And,
I'm really
and dealing with things like that, I don't necessarily know if we're always equipped. And as her dad, though, now looking back on it, she shared a little bit of it, but not a ton. And I think that those are the hard parts about school. Because even though she was 20 minutes away, she got to pick and choose what was shared. And not in the sense of I don't want them to know or whatever, but sometimes people deal with things differently. And, you hear it now and you're kind of like, well, dang, maybe I could have asked more. Maybe I could have been there more. But I kind of parented like my parents parented.
Yeah.
My parents are kind of like, if you cool, we cool.
Right.
And, that was kind of like the way I was. And so, she's going through these things and, we're having issues with grades at the time.
Yeah, because I didn't know how to function.
And so I was like, hold on, bro. I know I'm pulling money out of this 529 every semester.
But I also had never had struggled with my grades ever. Ever until I got.
So it was a clear,
Yeah, it was something
correlation. Yeah.
When I tell you, they would walk into my room. In high school, I would go to 2 different practices, be home at 9 o'clock, have to wake up at 6:30 because I had to get my siblings up. Without me, they weren't getting up. And it would be 2 o'clock in the morning. If dad walked past my door, I was up doing homework. I was studying. I was practicing for something. I was writing to make sure that I did well on my ACT, something. And so when I got to college and that's the stuff that is happening, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, things have to change because this isn't who I am. And so I went to the, it's called UCAC, the little people that help you with things, the counselors. And she looked at me and she was like, you have so many credits. I was about to be done with my degree as a sophomore. She was like, you can switch. You can do exactly what you want to do. Go get a degree in communications. You can keep your, at the time I was double majoring in African American studies as well. And she was like, you can keep all these things. You can graduate on time. You might even still be able to graduate early. And she got me in touch with people who were working in what I wanted to do, working in reporting, and didn't major in broadcasting. So she connected me with people who not only had my passion for what I wanted to do, but had to change the course to get there.
But that's what I think, though. So, right, you did it very young, right? So you're talking about passion.
I was 19.
Changing course and getting to that point.
What a gift.
You were not young, right? Like you were not young. So how do you do all these jobs, right? You bounce around to all these different places, and then we end up here. We end up in, a gallery, or what would we even call this? A studio.
There you go.
That boy's a creative at heart, right? So you end up in the studio, and we have all of this artwork. We have all of these paintings. And it seems like a long way to go to get to something that you do already, or that you knew was your passion. So what was the catalyst that kind of got you into art, maybe even young? And how did you eventually, make that switch and get to it?
So I found my love and my talent for art at the age of 13. So my dad studied and worked as an architect,
right?
And in Egypt and here in the States. And he had me at 13 go grab some of his architecture drawings. He wanted to show them to me and, walk down memory lane. So he showed them to me, and I was just blown away at his line work, his shading. And, these days they have AutoCAD. It's a software that is all digital. Back then it was all by hand. Right. So when I saw that, I was like, I can do that. I want to do that. So he had this drawing table in his office, and I used to sit and draw my favorite basketball players. So
who was the first basketball player you drew?
The first basketball player I ever drew was Michael Jordan. Followed by
so why is there no Michael Jordan art in here though? If we understand that he's the first and he's the GOAT.
Jordan pieces, Kobe pieces. I started out by drawing Jordan, Kobe, Allen Iverson, D Wade. Yes.
Isn't it
Chris
what's
Webber.
Really weird that the LeBron is still here?
That's somebody. Trust me. No. Trust me. It is so interesting how Jordan sells like this. Kobe sells in 20 minutes. The moment I post it, it's sold. It's done. We know. Rest in peace.
Right, for sure.
LeBron is having a difficult time getting sold.
You know what?
To be honest, I don't think it'll sell until he retires.
You know what? That's crazy.
Circulation.
It's still in circulation. It's still up for debate, and I think that it won't sell until he retires.
What's up for debate?
LeBron fan to see
what's up for debate?
What?
That the piece need to be sold, or that LeBron gonna be the GOAT?
No. She's saying that it's going to take a while to be sold because he's still
currently playing. Yeah.
It's like so what you're saying is basically
this man just won a championship and people still didn't buy it. And it's priced at a great price in comparison to some of the other pieces because I'm trying to.
So what you're saying is you have to discount a LeBron James piece.
Listen,
because he is not the GOAT.
Kobe and Jordan sell like this.
You don't say that Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan sell faster than LeBron.
This is.
I mean,
you're giving him everything he needs.
The thing is, LeBron has a little bit of some sort of stigma around him that
he's not the greatest of all time. That stigma
is very polarized.
Yes,
it's very polarized in opinion. People either love him or absolutely hate him. Whereas with Kobe and Jordan, it's not so polarized. People can say, I can see why you would consider them the GOAT, but you see, whereas with LeBron, it's done. Either you have this opinion or you have that. I'm a Kobe guy. I love Jordan. I grew up on Jordan. Kobe, he's a fellow Virgo like myself.
Listen, I'm telling you what, Kobe could have been born in every month and it wouldn't matter to me.
It would.
But
he loves him.
Tangents. This is what happens. This is what happens on Face First sometimes. I can always edit it and make it flow or fit.
You were talking about how your dad got you into art.
Yes, thank you. Yes. So at 13, thank you. At 13, I found the talent for it, right? I found the love and the passion for it, and I started drawing all these different players. High school, I meet this great art teacher. Shout out to Mrs. Kimberly Bowen, who saw...
Was that Bruce Bowen's wife?
No.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking.
She just saw that I loved art and fostered that love of it for me. Of course, I had mentioned going into college and not being able to study it or choosing not to study it. What I believe everything in your life is written. It's aligned. There's a meaning behind each of it. And I trust that God put me in many different industries and different roles because every single one ties back to being a full-time entrepreneur, right?
See that word she made? You like
yes,
that?
I am a full-time entrepreneur because you know, growing up, I'm certain many of us have heard starving artist, right? It's because
that stigma is what kept me from wanting to do it my entire life.
That's because most artists are constantly and solely focused on creating. When you want to be a successful artist, you run it as a business. And taking from being a manager, taking leadership skills and being in retail and understanding merchandising and understanding market trends and sales trends and what's visually appealing as far as a product, working in a staffing firm, right? Which required me as I was operations manager. So I was overseeing budgeting, forecasting, P&L, ordering supplies.
So now it's like you do all those jobs for yourself now.
You take every bit of experience and all these different, moments that stretch you in those jobs and apply it to what you do now. Now you can be a successful artist
because you're a successful business manager.
Because I'm a successful business person.
It's crazy that you say that because in terms of getting different ideas about everything and being well-versed in everything so you could be good at what you're doing, because that's most of the reason that I decided to double major in African-American studies as well as communications. And then I found out that even in communications, I was learning just what I wanted to learn about rhetoric. I wanted to learn how to analyze populations. I wanted to learn how to take people's history and bring that into how I'm communicating with them. Because I think that a lot of people get lost in media by not understanding who they're talking to.
Yes.
And when you don't understand that
understand your audience.
Right. If you don't understand that what the masses are feeling, you're not going to know how to make your piece objective or subjective.
Correct.
And so
Or you could just talk about football, Jaden.
No.
Okay.
Not just football. That's another thing. I wanted one of my favorite classes. I loved this teacher. Her name was Raquel Robius. Dr. Raquel Robius.
Respect on her name.
Absolutely. I love that. I love her. She taught a class and it was called Health Disparity. It was a communications class, but it was health disparity among races. And it taught me what to do and what not to do. I read articles nonstop. I read experiments, all types of things. And it showed me how many people are out of touch with who they're supposed to be talking to. And that's why I think we have so many issues in America with the fake news, with the feeling like someone is charged when they're speaking to you, is because they don't necessarily understand you. And I told you this earlier, that people with the best intentions can end up falling on deaf ears because they don't understand that the person they're talking to has rhetoric from before.
Yeah.
And so
I think, but in the sense of communication, history plays a large role in the history of the speaker, right? The history of the people that you're speaking with.
Absolutely.
Understood, right? Because if I am giving you a thought or if I'm giving you a feeling, it's usually because of the experiences of my life, right? Either the experiences of my life or the things that I've studied, the ways I've been educated. And the way you are receiving that is the same way as well. Right. If you have an ignorance to it, and not an ignorance as in a stupidity, but if you have an ignorance to a statement, then you absorb it all. Right. And you try to take in what you can digest. But if you don't, if you have a certain level of education, you don't digest the information, you dissect it. Right. And so that's what happens. That's what happens in communications. And I have a very simple job. Right. I talk about something that I've done my whole life.
Sure.
And so in communicating that, the first thing they tell you is, Ryan, you have to remember you're not talking to you. Right. So I can say certain things, say them in a certain way, and I understand everything I'm saying. Like I can say cover 2, and right away I can tell you where 11 people line up in that. But I might be talking to somebody who doesn't understand that. Right. So you have to break it down and say it in different ways. But that's also in communicating in families.
Absolutely.
Right. And so there were things that you could come to me and bring to me, and you may not think I can understand it. Or there's probably things you didn't do or you didn't bring to me because you felt like there may be a lack of understanding there. And I think that happens, so often. And so like now you get in the space, you're obviously in the space of doing what you want to do. you're in the space of doing what you want to do. But like for me, it's important as a father that I understand that, right? Because now you're doing something that your people or your father didn't think was a viable option for a job.
Right.
So how does that affect your relationship with him now? Is that relationship good? Like, is he into your art? Like, I would be here all the time. You know?
Well, it's interesting. When you have a vision, it's your vision. A lot of people can't quite see it until you actualize it. And then once you do, then they're on board, right? So for my dad, it's hard for him to envision. But once I actualized it for him and materialized it, now he's over the moon. He brags to everybody.
Right.
My daughter is this big artist and she's doing this and she's working with that and she's got this show and, all this stuff. But for him, initially, it was hard for him to formulate that idea in his head that this could be, a real thing. Now, because I've shown that I'm successful at it, it's all gravy, right? I think that you got to carry that with you when you're trying to pitch an idea to someone, when you're trying to convince someone of, a strategy, an idea, a concept, whatever it may be. You see it, but until you can physically show it to someone, it may not translate. And it's on you to execute on it to the level that you can in order for people to.
That's actually the mantra I had when I decided to move, because I had been accepted to grad school, and I was like, we were looking for jobs, and I was about to be in a position where I needed to just get a job because I needed to get a job. And I needed to make sure that I at least had some type of income. Not that my dad was going to kick me out on the street, but I
may have. You just never know how I might have woke up feeling.
I hope not. I hope not. But it was one of those things where like my mom kept stressing, Jaden, like you just need to be able to support yourself. She's like, you need to be able to get there. And if you have to take, a little while longer to get there, then you do. And I was like, but I don't think I have to. And I don't think that I should have to put myself and my goal on the back burner. And she said something, and I'm never going to forget. She looked at me, she goes, sometimes, Jaden, you just have to pivot.
Yeah. What's so interesting is millennials versus Gen Z. We were taught you push through and do things you don't want to do in order to do what you want to do. Whereas
absolutely, you do what you have to do until you can do what you want to do.
Whereas I believe, based on the things I've seen from family members and like the generation that's coming up, the Gen Z generation, is more like, no, I'm going to make it to where I only do what I want to do, But that word pivot,
she said pivot,
that's like one of my favorite words. So hearing you say that is exactly right.
When she told me that, I was like, how do I pivot? And how do I show my parents that you did make a functioning adult? I promise you made a functioning adult.
Right.
It's just here I can't function. Right here in the situation that I'm in with COVID, with, the way I ended up having to do school, like things were not the exact way I had planned them. And then I was like, started looking at opportunities, other places. I started testing job markets in different places. And I was like, I have a place to live for free. I need to leave. And I pitched my idea to my dad, and he looked at me and he was like, you're an adult. If you think this is what you need to do.
You didn't pitch an idea, Jaden.
I walked downstairs.
I was riding the Peloton. Like let's not sell this to people like this was some great grand conversation. You see what happens when you get artists on your show and they got to bring their phone on? And I don't know who has an alarm set for 2 p.m.
Oh no, there's a reason.
Was she going? She has to make a call.
Sorry.
This is live. This is live though. This is what happens on Females First. When they take over your show, they got alarms set and stuff that go off during the show. What?
Okay.
No, back to what I was saying though. Back to what I was saying. And we ain't gonna edit that either. We gonna leave that in so people can know that Marian Mekhail didn't come on the show with her phone all the way on silent.
Silent too.
So
that's the thing.
So in that, because this is why I love the show. Like in that conversation, I think the backdrop and the history of it is important. I've had Jaden since she was 4 years old, right? Jaden was raised with my wife and I. Jaden's mother didn't live near us, right? The relationship between Jaden's mother and me at some points was good. At some points it wasn't, right? All I ever cared about was her though. Like it didn't, like my ego, whatever happened in my house, like all those things didn't matter. I wanted Jaden to be all right. And that's all I've ever cared about. And so you get to this point and you feel like you've parented her and you've taken care of her up until this point, it's like you have to make a decision. Like you have to make a decision. Do you think you've done everything you were supposed to do until now, and now she can do it for herself or not?
Right.
And also too, like sometimes you gotta let people go see.
Yeah.
That was my idea. Like I don't know if you could swim if I don't let you go jump in the water.
Yeah.
Now, if you jump in the water and your dumb ASS is drowning, then I'll throw you a life jacket and we'll get you out. But I had to let her go do that. And the one thing I knew though, just by the way it happened, I'll be honest, it didn't happen in the way I was comfortable with, right? I don't think it was handled in the way that showed me the respect and love I was supposed to have, right? That's what I felt. But even in that, like I said, I've only ever cared about her. I didn't want to make her walking out the door difficult for me, right? Like I didn't want her to think that she hurt me. I didn't want her to think that I had a certain feeling. I wanted her to feel like Dad is 100% behind me going. So I'm on the Peloton.
He's on the Peloton.
I'm on the Peloton, right? I'm on the Peloton, pedaling. And she had already told me, I'm going to talk to you on this day, Dad. I'm doing all this stuff. I was like, that's some bull crap, but we'll talk. So she walks in and but I already knew though. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew what was coming. Like I knew that had been coming. I felt like that had been coming for 18 years. You know what I'm saying? So she walks in, she tells me, and I say, what do you need me to do? And if that's what you need to do, you go do it. And so now when she goes out and she's living this life and she's making these decisions, one, I know she gets to know that she only is behind these decisions. Yeah. Whether they work or whether they don't work. If they work, you can be proud that you made the decisions and you took the steps to get to where you are. If they don't work, you can at least be proud that I went out here and I tried to do it. And now, like y'all say, you got to pivot. And so when she tells me and I'm like, all right, cool, like go do it. I could see not arguing with her, not putting my emotions on her, made her say, okay, now this has to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it
forced her to say, I guess if he not gonna fight me on it now.
No, that's exactly what happened. It wasn't a comfortable situation for me either.
So
at all.
I can safely speak on behalf of my parents in saying they were not pleased with a lot of the decisions that I made to get to the point that I am now, both personal and professional. They have a vision for who their daughter will be, should be, they hoped to be.
Was a lot of their vision based on where they're from, like being Egyptian?
Absolutely. You know, if you ever go to Egypt, you'll find that.
I don't really like to travel.
Not that
if you ever go to Egypt, number one, you'll find that you're in a different world. It is a completely different world. Then you add on the time period in which they grew up in. They grew up in you could almost feel like it was a different planet. So to then immigrate here, they have certain expectations of who and what I'm going to be,
of course. Right?
So going against the grain in almost every facet of what they thought was difficult for them to accept. But when they see the impact that one can create by living in who exactly they want to be, supposed to be, meant to be, you know, you kind of sit back and say, well, clearly it was written for this girl to be doing what she's doing.
But I think,
let me put my...
But people from the outside, right? So people from the outside that care about you, they don't focus on the positives of the journey.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
they're concerned. Parents are concerned about your stability.
That's it.
Parents are concerned about other things. They're not worried about that you did a painting for Ryan Clark.
Right.
To be honest,
no,
my
straight
parents
up.
could care less if I did a painting for Ryan Clark. They care about, are you whole, happy, safe?
Can you take care of yourself?
And when they see this girl never asks us for anything. She's never asked us for anything.
Kind
of like
I give her so what's crazy about this? So Jaden,
it's funny.
So Jaden, man, like you like I had checked Jaden's account. I'd be like, Jaden, you got $1.75.
And I did. And I would not ask.
And so like, but her brother and her sister, man, them jokers ain't gonna struggle at all. You know, and so it was always this weird thing for me though. I was like, Jaden, just call me. Or like I would just cash app her money or just give her money.
To be fair, my thought process was, especially in college, I pay money for what I want to pay money for. They took care of my housing. They took care of my real bills, like phone, car, and they, like they provided for me for everything that I would have to use money for that I didn't. So like if I decided to get my nails done, if I wanted to, like for graduation, I wanted to get my hair and my nails done, I wanted to get my eyelashes done, I didn't want to ask because that's stuff I wanted to do. Now, granted, there was like, I need groceries in there and I had a dog, so he needed to be fed. But it was one of those things where like, I didn't want them to think that that's all I saw them as. I didn't want them to think that like, I'm just out here living my life, but you know what? You're my bank. So can you just wire me money real quick?
Well, it's interesting you say that. I had a young Egyptian man. I'm called Coptic, right? Coptic means Christian Egyptian, right? So I grew up in a very Orthodox Christian home. I had a young man, he's probably 19, 20, DM me and say, how did you get your family to be on board with you becoming an artist? My parents want me to study this. They want me to be a doctor. So if I try to say I want to do X, Y, or Z outside of that, I get major pushback. And I said, are they footing the bill for your life? Are they bankrolling what you do now? Your schooling, your lifestyle? He said, yes. I said, well, if they're bankrolling what you do, then they have that's completely fair that they have dictation over what it is that you're doing. If you want to go outside of what anyone else wants for you, it has to be on your own, with your own funds, and show them that you can't expect them to pay for something.
Hey, so I think...
Do you get where I'm going with this?
I get what you're saying.
I said, make the time. If there's something else that you want to do, take the time to explore what that is, do some research, and start getting into it on your own.
Yeah, I think
then when it's time,
that's probably...
It's not fair.
Yeah, that's probably like a different life than what she had to live. Because my thing is this.
That's the life I had
my
to
thing
live.
my thing is have a freaking plan.
Yeah.
I don't care what you want to be. Like she could have wanted to be a freaking astronaut.
But don't complain about the situation without having some
if you're gonna be an astronaut, you can't be like AJ and you on Armageddon.
Yes.
You can't be drilling oil and then have to save the world from a meteor. That's not how you get to be an astronaut. Like you got to take the proper NASA steps.
I think it's really important also to push that my dad's never not told me that I couldn't be a reporter. He's never not told me that it wasn't a viable option to be in broadcasting. He did
That's a blessing.
Right. Now, he did tell me.
I never told you because never not mean I did. That's a double negative child.
I said never not. I said
you sure did.
Don't tell my English teacher.
I'm a parent.
don't tell my English teacher from high school she'd die. But he never did those things. Now, he did look at me and say that he hates the broadcasting major because people don't understand what has to go into it. They don't understand that it's more than just, I get to be on TV. But for me, it was about storytelling and creating that way. But it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't have to worry about that part. Now, I might have to worry about the path that we go to get there. But he never said that my career option wasn't it. He was just kind of like, no, do you really think you should have been doing that?
Yeah.
Well, I think because like here's I think the difference with what you chose to do, right? You chose to go into art. Your parents aren't artists, even though your father's an architect. He wasn't an artist. He wasn't an entrepreneur.
Right.
Like you said, he didn't go out on his own and start his own thing.
Exactly.
So he doesn't have necessarily the knowledge to go into that.
Yes.
I have children who, one way or another, do things I've done. I got a son that plays football.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard.
Following in your footsteps in some way.
So it's hard to sit there and have a level of knowledge about something that's going on and not feel like you can impart that. Right. And so when she's telling me she wants to do these things, obviously my path is different, but I'm looking at it like, nah, like I've seen people work their way to do. They weren't doing that. And I think, and so that was kind of always like the pull between she and I, but to sit here with you and for you to be like, nah, like this is how I got to where I got to, and now I get to live in my passion, right? Which I think the world revolves around being able to combine your purpose and your passion and give it meaning, right? Like that's what it's about. And that's the same thing I want for her. Like I know, like my child is deeply layered, you know? She's a biracial child. She's a child that grew up with her Black family, right? She's a child now that lives with her white family. Right, she's a child that I've had to teach as a dad who's from New Orleans who don't know nothing about nothing. Right, I had her when I was 19. right? So I had to teach her that who you are holistically should be loved, right? You should love every part of you, right? I love every stinking part of you, and I'm never gonna not. And like, that's the one thing for us that I always try to communicate. Our relationship is not reciprocal. You see what I'm saying? Like, because I love her and because I treat her a certain way and because I take care of her, she doesn't owe me anything. Like, that's my child.
Yeah.
You know? And so did she do like stupid crap that I ain't like? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Was she disrespectful sometimes? Absolutely. But that don't change the way I love her and the fact that I want her to succeed. Like, I want her to live in that purpose. Like, I want her to affect the world in some way where I could be like, damn, you know what? Like, for that little skinny 19-year-old kid with the big old head, like, you did all right. And so now being in this space, and I'm sure that you want to continue to grow, right? You want to continue to get to another place. Like, you want to be in a place where you're like, you know what? My life as an artist is sustainable. Like, I get to go where I want to go, live how I want to live. But in the end, like, that doesn't leave a legacy. Like, that just sustains our lifestyle.
Right.
What legacy do you want to leave with your work?
For me, I feel like the legacy I want to leave is that I've taken the gifts that God has given me, and whether it be the gift of gab, right? Whether it be the gift of art, you know, whether it be the gift of relating to others, and use all of those in a way that pushes others towards finding what their mission is on this earth and living in that exact same way. A lot of times people talk about purpose, and I was mentioning this to you earlier, is when we talk about purpose, for some reason, it always relates to a career or monetary gain. I know that I was created to create, whether that be to create art, whether that be to create conversation, whether that be to create a new idea in your head that you never saw before, whether that be to create connection with others. And when you find that, yours may be to serve, right? I know my mom's mission on this earth is to serve those around her.
Right.
It has nothing to do with what your career is. If you can find what that mission is, and in any room, apply that, in any opportunity, in any conversation, in any way, enact that, I feel like we will live whole, fuller lives. Through my work, I'm able to create these kind of conversations. Had it not been for me having the ability to take a moment in time, an image, a memory for you, and make it into a visual piece, I wouldn't be able to sit in this chair and talk to you on camera, right? But because using that opened the door for me to be able to then sit in front of this camera and speak with you. My goal through my work is to encourage and to implore everyone to find what that is, because living without knowing that, I felt dead inside. Right. I didn't feel like I was living a real life. Right. And when I finally pinpointed, I don't care what cultural, what familial influence, I know that this is what I meant to do, and seeking the help to get to that point. My life I can't express to you the amount of peace that I feel in my life every day, just knowing that I get to do what it is that I do. It's crazy. You know?
Jaden, in listening to that, though, do you feel like you're getting the opportunity, you're on the path to live in that type of life?
I'm going to be honest with you. When talking to you, and since I've walked through the door, I've felt that like this is a twin soul. But yes, I feel when I got the job, because, you know, I called you texted you when I had the interview, I texted you when I got it. It was such a sense of relief and peace to know that I moved out of my house that I've lived in for 12 years with the people I've been living with for forever. And I did something because I said something is telling me to go. I think I should do it. And I got a job in 29 days.
Listen to yourself. I think as women, sometimes we don't listen to ourselves.
That's the point I'm trying to
listen to yourself.
And so when I got the job, and then when I found out what I was going to be doing, I've always loved telling the truth with my writing, I loved being able to tell someone's truth in a story. I loved painting because I'm a realist painter. So I paint in black and white and I paint portraits. I loved people being able to look at that painting and seeing someone's story. I painted Sean Taylor for a friend of mine, and I was over the moon because the sweat drop on his forehead was a sweat drop. And that's the same way I feel now doing feature writing. I feel like when I get to write about people, when I get to write about their mission and I'm telling their truth, that is what I was meant to do. I feel like that's why I loved art so much, though, because I got to tell somebody else's truth and I got to let other people see those things. Like
Storytelling.
Right. I love storytelling, specifically because I think that people need to hear things. Like, I think people need to see things. I think people need to hear things. I think people need to experience things.
And through your gaze.
Right. And I love that. I love that experience. And the fact that I'm doing it now so soon, I don't think I've felt this amount of peace since I went to college.
Well,
and it's important to note that peace doesn't mean you're not going to encounter challenges.
Yeah. No,
we were just talking about challenges that we face even within doing what we love or feeling that this is the right place. That's meant to stretch you. You know, that's meant to... I heard a sermon just the other day, and it's like, if you got your pillows lined up and you lit your candles and you got your little bowl of chips and get all laid back with the remote and whatever, and you're comfortable now, and it's like, okay, use me. No, that's not how it's going to work. It's never going to work that way. You are going to be met with sparring partner after sparring partner. And I don't know if you know much about boxing.
I don't. He does.
I'm not a fighter.
Prior to a fight, you spar with different fighters so that each part of your game, if you will, is strengthened. And that sparring partner is meant to hit you, right? Listen, sometimes we encounter, whether it be an actual person or it be a circumstance situation, it's like, I'm very spiritual. So it's like God bringing you a sparring partner to strengthen that part of your game so that when you get in the ring and that punch comes at you, you're able to pivot, like you said, you're able to pivot, and then sometimes you do get knocked down still.
I think though,
but it's up to you to get up, off the mat.
The thing, because I can only come at this from like the father thing, right? Is that when you're a father, like your goal is, right? Like I want to be the helmet, right? Because the one thing that happens when you spar is if you're the fighter who's going to be headed to the match, you wear a helmet, right? Because you're not going to spar and allow allow somebody to punch you. Yeah. So it's not a situation that we're not asking or we're not hoping that you ever face adversity, right? Because the one thing about the way I grew up is like you're supposed how you going to respond to it? You know what I mean? And so like, I don't mind those parts. The thing that you try to do as a parent is make sure that the adversity you face is not adversity you put upon yourself. Right. And I think, and
don't let it be self-created.
Yeah. And so what's hard about that is we also have to learn, especially with daughters, right? Like I'm different with Jordan. You know what I'm saying? Like Jordan was in the 8th grade. He did something stupid. I probably shouldn't say this. I walked into his room. I threw him some gloves. I was like, put them on. And he was like, why? I was like, because we just gonna get this out. We're gonna get it handled. We're gonna get done. Right? With my girls, I was always different because there had to be a lesson taught. Right? And with the lesson being taught, it always had to end when I walked off. No matter how it went, they had to feel like, I know no matter what, if there's only one person in the world that's going to be there, it's going to be him.
I think that, I know that the one thing my dad has taught me my entire life, he's taught me many things, but his main message is no matter how small the world tells you are, no one can shine out your own light except for yourself. He's taught me that it doesn't matter what they tell you. It doesn't matter how they try to beat you down, that if you work hard enough, what's meant for you will be for you. And I know that my story's not done. I've barely started. I might have just opened the book and this is the title. But I know that he has prepared me to be able to handle everything. Whether I handle it well and I'm flying and I'm soaring, whether I don't, it's one of those things where it's like, he taught me for a long time, nobody owes me anything. He taught me that the way I respond to things, not everybody's going to respond to them. He's taught me that the way you look at things, not everybody's going to look at them. And because we don't always see eye to eye because of our different experiences. I know that just because someone is talking to me and doesn't understand me, or that I don't understand them, doesn't mean there's a lack of respect in our mutual conversations.
Right.
My dad has always parented me, but when he walked away, it wasn't he doesn't love me, he doesn't value me. Those things. He taught me how to communicate your feelings. He taught me how to communicate a rational point, if it was rational. And at the end of the day, that just be the conversation and then move on from it. Yeah. Now, I'm not very good at it because I am a woman, and sometimes it just, it dwells on you.
So we're about to wrap this up, but I think the thing that, like, I am not a creative in the sense of I don't necessarily have certain talents, right?
Sure.
But like very much like you said, creation is so different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have created humans for sure. Yeah. But in creating those humans, like, you cultivate them and you hope that one day they get to a point to where they can now do the same for someone else. And I always, my thought was, I need to teach Jordan, who's my son, how to love, support, take care of, provide better than I was taught. Not better than I am necessarily, but better than I was taught. Because if I teach him better than I was taught, then he does end up being better than me. I needed to teach her how to take care of herself, how to be whole, but also what it feels like to be loved, right? And to be loved in the right way. And I can't say that I've done that as an adult in my own relationships as well as I've done it with my kids. And I F it up with my kids too. I just love them little boogers so much. But I think the thing I took away from today was that sometimes you have these ideas, because I was like, Marian is super talented. She's super intelligent. She reminds me of my child, right? There are things that she'll never get from me, that I ain't gonna ever try to give her because I don't understand them, right? But you put people together sometimes. Like, I created this idea. I was like, bro, it'd be super dope that if I did a podcast with Marian Mekhail, I also had Jaden Clark. And I think that'll work. And it does work. And then when I see you guys talk, it's more so not the podcast hosting me or the football analyst. It's just the dad. So I was like, dang, RC. Yeah. Females first was dope.
You always say, a lot of people say I'm not creative, but you are creative.
You did. You created something. Yeah. You definitely created a relationship.
Creative is with solutions, creative with strategy, creative. There's more than just art or sculpture or fine art. People typically go, you created a bond or a connection, a conversation.
And it all started with an idea. Everything starts with an idea. Yeah. That painting started with an idea. And that's the point. Yeah.
See? We back to face first. Peace.
Underestimated and still I made it. In the book of hard knocks, I'm highly educated. Nobody chose me, looked over, but still dedicated. Played in the league for 13, I ain't gotta be favorite. 2 Super Bowls, Honolulu, I stood with the greatest. The thing is this, that never rich, I'm good with my neighbors. DB precision, television, ain't asked for no favors. Numbers don't lie, neither do pictures, just look in the papers. No backing down or turning back.